process is a little bit demystified as we get through it. So a big hello and welcome, and a huge congratulations, and that's to both of our candidates that are watching us who have been made a placement matching offer and have been made an offer on the waitlist. 5,500 applicants to this program. It's getting bigger every year. This is the 11th year that we've run Charity Works. For you to have competed to a standard that you've performed at through the assessment centre, that we are able to make you either a placement matching offer or a waitlist offer, says a whole lot about you, and a tremendous well done, because it's such a competitive process. For those of you that have been made a placement matching offer, we are actively matching you and looking to match people who've been made a placement matching offer from this week. So the process starts this week. And actually, we should have some messages to send out on that by the end of this week for our kind of first batch. But I'm going to give you a bit of an idea about what timeline looks like in a moment. For those of you that were made an offer to join our waitlist, you may be feeling a little bit disappointed, and you needn't. Not only was Charity Works massively competitive, but there has to be a cut-off point somewhere, unfortunately, and it feels a little bit arbitrary to draw an arbitrary cut-off point, but we need to manage the placement numbers and to give some priority over those that performed the absolute best through the process, but the margins were very, very small. So the person who is ranked at the top of our list, the difference between their scores and somebody who's at the top of the waitlist, it's very marginal, and that's purely just because of the volume and quality that we've seen this year. And we've been saying this, and I'm not just telling you this because it's what you want to hear, but genuinely the quality and standard of applicant has been really incredible and really blown us away this year. And I know the team at Assessment Centre, the programs team, have had a wonderful time getting to meet you. Speaking of team and individuals, I just want to drop a few names in here, because there are members of the Charity Works team involved in this placement matching process that you're likely going to hear from or hear of during the process of placement matching specifically. And I just wanted to put some faces to some names to let you know that we are people, and we do exist, and we do put a lot of care, attention and effort into making sure that we get this right for our host organisations, but also for you too. In the top left of your screen there is Max. Max works in my team, and he has been supporting us and will be supporting any candidate queries that come in, and supporting us with some of the administration around placement matching. You can see a picture of Beth there in the middle at the top, who is talking to you in the text chat at the moment. Beth also works in my team, and she will be dealing with any more complex queries as and when they arise. But Beth will also be picking up some relationships with some of our charity partners as well, in terms of securing placements on the programme this year. In the top right there is Jess. Jess is heavily involved in the delivery of the Charity Works programme. Once you're on the Charity Works programme, she'll be chipping in with the placement matching process, but you'll likely hear more from Jess once you're on the actual programme. She deals with some of our volunteer networks as well, including our mentors. Bottom right there, we have James, who works alongside Jess in a similar capacity. James will be sending out messages to you when matches become available, and we have matched you to roles. So you'll be hearing from James a fair bit in the Charity Works inbox. In the bottom, in the middle there, totally weird picture of Ben, not because it's Ben, but because of the white background and the fact I've literally just pulled that off his LinkedIn because I don't have a copy of his team photo anywhere. But that is our programs manager, Ben, who you will have, I'm guessing, met at Assessment Centre, because I'm pretty certain Ben was at every Assessment Centre. He manages the delivery of the Charity Works programme. So delivery of the leadership development programme, those relationships with our clients and candidates once you're on the programme, and oversees that programme. Yeah. And in the bottom left there, that's me. My name is Craig. I'm the campaigns manager for Charity Works, so I'm responsible for ensuring that you have placements to go to in terms of getting our charity partners to offer up roles available to candidates, as well as managing some of the other aspects of our campaigns work, including our campus recruitment campaign. So a big hello from all of us, the CharityWorks team. You're only going to be able to hear from me today, sadly, because of the limits of the technology, but Beth will be typing away. But hopefully that's a helpful introduction as to some of the names you may be hearing from over the next few weeks. What I want to do with this session is basically just talk you through a timeline about what placement matching, how placement matching works across the next few months, but also to talk you through the actual process of matching you to roles. What does that look like? What are we doing behind the scenes? And what does that feel like from your perspective? Then I want to open it up to some questions, and we'll just be picking some questions up as we go, and then we will bring the session to a close. So that is the agenda for this session. Let's start first with the placement matching timeline. So what's going to happen now over the next kind of few weeks and months? Well, from mid-July, from this week, in fact, we had a ranking order for everyone who took part, and we have assessed you all against the same competencies, all against the same criteria. It's fairly as can be done. So with a number of different approaches like anonymization of applications, multiple markers, diverse marker team, reducing and giving unconscious bias training, and produced a ranking which we think is a fair reflection of performance. That means that some of you will have been offered a placement matching offer because you scored above a certain threshold, and some of you will have been invited to join our waitlist. And those that joined our waitlist performed less well, but it must be stressed that everybody who is on our waitlist and everyone who's been made a placement matching offer, all of you are of a standard and quality that we would be delighted to place you into a role with one of our CharityWorks partners. So there were some people that would have received a direct rejection, but those that haven't and those that are on the wait list or the placement matching offer, you are obviously of a standards that we are happy to place into in terms of roles. So I think that's really important to know. Nicole has asked what the threshold was. It's kind of arbitrary and really difficult to assess actually, because we score, we use a point scoring system across all the competencies, across everything, from everything on the application form to all of the assessed activities in the assessment center, including the written exercises. So it's kind of difficult to give you a sense of where that is, but the bar was high, I guess is the best that I can tell you at the moment. Okay, cool. What we're going to do is start matching from this week, and actually some of you will receive your placement match from Friday, actually, will be the first time that we're sending out those messages. However, I want to just let you know that the placement matching process can take some time. So I want to know what you should be able to expect. Lucy, yes, I can. I can tell you how many are on both lists, and I'll do that just at the end of this slide. Throughout August, we'll be keeping up to date with you every fortnight with a matching update. We're going to try and send this out on a Friday, and the aim will be to send this out to you every fortnight, and this will go to everybody who's involved in the process and just give you a general update as to how things are going. Given the numbers and the complexity of what's happening, it's not possible for us to personalize that all the time, but we are aiming to ensure that you never go longer than 3 weeks without having some kind of personalized contact with the team, whether that is an email about the status of your current matching, your matching status, or whether that is us having a phone call with you. Once you get to stages in the process where we're talking about 3 weeks onwards and you may not have received a match, that's the point where we might want to talk to you about why that might be at the moment. And often that is to do with number of roles that are available to us at the time, and what roles are becoming available and what candidates were available that were matched to those roles, and why you might not have been matched to something but somebody else was. And we can give you a little bit of a steer on that, and also give you a bit of guidance in terms of your placement matching preferences. We're going to continue to update you every couple of weeks until we get to the main induction. So the majority of our roles will be in place for a large induction that should happen in late September or potentially early October. But when I say a majority, it's hard to put a figure on it. Every year it differs, but there are usually still a substantial number of roles to come. And the reason this is the case is that we toyed with the idea of having a cutoff in September and then everybody knows, and then that's it. But unfortunately, or fortunately, in a way, the charity sector often picks up in terms of recruitment post-September. And here we have some amazing candidates that are yet to receive roles. So it may be that you receive a placement match beyond September into October, or perhaps even into November. If you're on the wait list, the chances of you being made an offer on the wait list tends to increase the longer we go through that process. So people in placement matching offer tend to get matches earlier, mainly because there is some priority over how well you've performed in the process, although it's not entirely down to that. I'm going to talk you through what makes matching happen in a moment. By the end of November, we expect all matches to then be complete. We will be updating you all the way throughout that process. I'm just going to pick up the question around numbers. We invited so we're expecting 150 roles this year on the program, and those roles come in across the placement matching process. So we'll have plenty of roles available before September induction, and already actually we're matching into a significant number of roles already. We expect to have 150 by the time this process concludes, and that's a very strong expectation based on last year, based on the current business development campaign that we're running. And in terms of numbers, for those 150 roles, we've invited 200 individuals into a placement matching offer, but almost immediately dropout starts occurring. So people are taking up roles from other organizations. Maybe they've hedged their bets and they've decided that they want to apply to this and the Civil Service Fast Stream or another program. And so we start to see some withdrawal, some uptake of roles, some people that just don't want to be involved in the process. So we expect over the next few days that number will match the number of roles available, roughly 150. But then what typically happens is just process. So as we go through the process, there will be some people in the placement matching offer who will take up roles and some who decide that they don't. And that tends to open up opportunities to those on the wait list. To reassure those people on the wait list, every year, I've been involved in this program for 4 years now. I've never known a year where we haven't worked with the waitlist to match into roles. Last year, we had such a demand that most individuals that wanted to be matched to a role that met their preferences were able to get a role on the program. And that's something else I need to reassure you with, particularly those that have a placement matching offer. There are enough roles, bearing in mind dropout and flexibility, for everyone to have a role if you're on the placement matching list, but that will depend somewhat on flexibility and somewhat on location as well. So let me talk you through next steps beyond that. There are some great questions coming through. No, it doesn't. It doesn't include those on the wait list. There are more people on the wait list beyond that, but we always dip into the wait list every year. If you've been matched on role by the September induction, when are we likely to start the job? Often, Sophie, that depends on you. So some people have to work a 4-week notice period. So if you're matched before the induction in September, we would invite you to the induction and you might start after. That's quite common. But many of you will be starting before then. Does that mean every candidate on the waitlist could likely be offered a placement? It means it's possible, but it's not likely. But it depends on how committed you are to being on the program. So we had some people who stuck with us until November. They hadn't picked up other roles. They were on the wait list. They continuously kept making us clear that they wanted a role in the program. Some of them took up roles. In fact, most of them took up roles that they would never have considered. Some of them have been. Some of them were matched, and pretty much every role that I can think of was a massive success this year. So there is usually an element of dropout that makes it highly possible for people on the waitlist to get a role, but I must stress that nobody at any point through the process is guaranteed a job offer. If you're in a placement matching offer, it's highly likely, assuming that you're flexible or that you've been flexible enough with your placement, that unless you've told us that you only want to work in a single location and for whatever reason we don't quite get the uptake of roles there and you're not willing to relocate, those are the only real circumstances I can see where it's less likely for you to be matched if you've been made a placement matching offer. You will get the quantitative feedback for your scores in. That's a very good question, actually. Normally we send it out at the end of the placement matching process. Last year we did it at the end of August, but let me check in with the team on that and I can find out. So I'm conscious that there are plenty of questions coming through and I'm going to try and alleviate some of the nerves around how this works by talking you through the process. So how does placement matching actually work? So the first step is us matching you to a role. The second step is you writing a written statement by way of introduction. And the third step is an opportunity for you that doesn't happen with every employer, but does happen with particularly newer employers, a chance for you to meet the host organization face-to-face before final decisions are made. So when we matched the roles, and hopefully this resonated with you at the assessment center, we talked about how Charity Works works through you but not for you. And actually the idea is that we will aim to match to roles that are the best fit for the talent. But at the same time, we want to make sure, first of all, most importantly, that the client and host organization gets that role filled by somebody who is most capable to fill that role, for the benefit of the beneficiaries. So the primary way we look at roles is through the lens of the client. And then we also look at roles based on your preferences too. So let's talk about the first thing. Let's talk about best fit for role and what we're looking at. Well, firstly, we're often looking at transferable skills that are relevant to the job. So this might be through some of the information you told us. And again, the information you gave us, to be clear, was mainly through the placement matching survey. So this is why we asked you to be really careful with how you fill this in. It informs so much of this process. And we asked you to fill it in with an open mind, but also to be very, very honest as well. So transferable skills is the first thing. So that might be your past experience. That might be skills you've demonstrated to us through the assessment process. That might be transferable skills that you have given through your volunteer experience or through your university degree. Or it may be some more specific specialist skills that you told us about on the form. So you have coding experience or advanced Excel, for example. We take a look at your background and experience based on what we're looking for in the role. And then we also look at whether it is aligned to your interests. And by interests, I mean three things. I think first and foremost, we're looking for people who are able to actually attend that role. So location is hugely important. But then we're thinking about your preferences around the kind of cause that you might be interested in working in. But probably more specifically and often more important is your affinity for that role in particular. So you may have told us about some preferences. You may have told us about some roles you definitely don't want to work in, like finance. You may have told us you don't want to work in finance, or you don't want to work in HR or operations or marketing. So we'll be looking at whether or not it meets expectations around your interests. And then we'll be looking at assessment performance. And this is usually the balance. When we usually find a good fit for a role, if we find more than one candidate, it normally comes down to whether or not there's a significant gap in assessment performance. It's very rare, actually, that we typically find a right fit before we've even considered performance, but it does play a factor. So those that have been made a placement matching offer and those that have performed the best through the process should feel more confident when they're being considered for certain roles, particularly those roles that are very competitive in terms of finding the best fit. We're also then looking for whether or not there is a good fit towards organization and cause alignment. So that's thinking about the placement, but then we think about it slightly from the other way. So we're looking at your fit for that role, but also for your potential in that role. So we talked about location, we talked about your affinity for a particular type of role and your affinity for a particular type of cause. But we're also looking to make sure that a role will be interesting for you and exciting, but also have the scope to be quite developmental as well. So we want a role to land with some of your experience if possible. And when I talk about experience, we take a lot of nuance into account here. If you've had loads of experience in marketing, but made it really clear to us you don't want a marketing role, you're looking at frontline, and we're not going to be looking overtly at matching you into a marketing-based role. So it's all very nuanced and it depends on your preferences, and it's all very human. So we use an algorithm to remove any candidates who are just not a match for very obvious reasons, like you've told us you don't want to work in London, for example. It wouldn't present us with you as an option for London-based roles, but it's all very human. So it's always considered by somebody like myself or somebody like Beth, and we're often conferring and discussing. There are a lot of moving parts in this process. There are roles coming in all the time. We've got live candidates in the process. We're trying to get matches out as quick as possible. some people are flagging location, and I'm going to talk about location in a minute. I think Beth will probably pick some of that up, but I want to talk about location. So what happens when we make a match? Well, once we make a match for you, we'll do it based on the placement matching preferences response, so that form that you filled in, the available roles that we have for us at the time, and also on your performance. So if we think about this sensibly, if we've got 80, 90 roles of the 150 available right now, we will match you to something that we think you will perform really well in and be able to excel in. That's great for the organization, but is potentially and hopefully developmental for you too. One of the big worries is that people sometimes come back and say, I do like that role and it does match my skill set, but I was kind of hoping for, and they name a charity, and it's often an international development charity. And the only issue with that is, and I'll talk to you about what you do if you're not happy with the match that we've made for you in a moment, but what the concern is about that is that it's about the available roles that we have. So we might get a brilliant role that is perfectly suited to you come in November, but I'm concerned about being able to get you into a one-year placement that is really good for you and really good for the organization. And sometimes there are just too many unknowns about what's down the line. So we'll talk about what that looks like in a minute. When you get your match, we will send it through to you. We'll send you through details about the organization, details about the role, and details about what to do next. So the first thing that you need to do is read over the details very carefully and consider travel and or location realistically. So if it's your dream role, but it's just a bit too far from home, think really carefully. Can I do that commute? What does the cost look like? Can I do that day in, day out? We've considered it really carefully before we've matched you, but you might think that there's something that we've missed. Do some background reading on both the organization itself and, if it's unfamiliar to you, the role. So there may be, you may know very clearly about campaigns and marketing, but you might not know what a business development role is. And we might have matched you to one based on your skills, experience, and preferences. But you will want to have a look as to what that looks like in practice. We also want you to consider any role we match you to within the context of you being on the leadership development program for CharityWorks. sound. I've got no sound, but now I've got sound. Can everybody hear me? Is that any clearer? Just gonna wait a moment to see if the text chat box kicks up again. I was weirdly kicked out of my own. That's great. Excellent. Hello. Sorry about that. I was weirdly kicked out of my own CharityWorks account. Oh, not sure what's going on there, but I'm back. So let me share my screen again. Hi guys. Right. Sorry about that. I was right in the swing of things there. So let me come back. Yes, the logo is the only thing up at the moment, Tony. I didn't want to faff around putting anything on the screen if it wasn't going to work. I'm now going to share my screen again and go back to the presentation. And I was fearful because sometimes when I get disconnected, it cuts the recording off and saves it as a recording, and then we have to create a new link, and it's a nightmare getting people migrated over. So let me see. So I'm not sure I can see any questions. That's the only problem, but hopefully you can see the screen. And that's because my YouTube video link is very out of date. Aha, here we go. Here we go. Hello, right, I've got you all back and I can see. Thank you for your patience and sorry about that. So where we picked up is after we've sent you your placement match and you've read it and gone into that level of detail, we ask you to write a written statement. Now, some people read this and they freak out. And the reason that happens is because sometimes people are thinking, why is there another step? I've just been through a really rigorous recruitment and selection process, and I want to talk you through that. So CharityWorks recruitment is a mass recruitment process, and we assess you against our broad-based general competencies. Every single one of the CharityWorks organizations that we're working with knows that you've been through a really robust recruitment and selection process. They're all signed up to that. They're all signed up to the fact that they shouldn't take you through any more assessment. However, this will be the first opportunity that an organization gets to hear from you specifically, and we want you to make a good impression. And we want you to solidify our recommendation in you, actually. So we write a candidate recommendation document that explains to the organization, this is why we think that Ewan or Yaz or Katie is right for this role. And this is our justification based on their experience. This is what they're interested in. This is what they've done. It's really compelling when they see a statement from you that is kind of acting like a covering letter, but that says, you know, this is why I think I'm right for the role. This is why I think I'm right. This is why CharityWorks think I'm right. And it's a lovely little package that we put together. So we ask you to write a written statement. We don't want you to spend too long on it, but at the same time, I saw too many statements last year that had the most appalling grammar and spelling mistakes. You guys are cream of the crop in terms of our assessment center process. So please take it seriously and carefully. I know you guys definitely can, and maybe we didn't brief clear enough. Rachel, what we tend to do is we'll tend to send communications out about matches on a Friday and ask you to turn around whether or not you're interested, and with the statement by the following Monday. And you might think that's really quick in terms of a turnaround. The main reason is just to get the process moving as quickly as possible. If you can't, if you're on holiday, if you've got a genuine reason why that's not possible, email us back and let us know. Tell us that you want to accept the role, and let us know when you think you can get that to us. It's often the sooner the better. And the main reason for that is I don't really want you to spend you know, an afternoon or a day writing a 500-word statement. This is 500 words is what, just over a side of A4. And it should really just be you demonstrating that you're interested in the role, the cause, and the organization. It should be you drawing attention to the skills that you've got and why they're right for the elements of the role that we've shared with you. And we will share it as part of our recommendation for you. And also, we will share a copy of that recommendation that we've sent alongside your statement to you so that you can see what we've sent to the employer. And no, Elisabetta, you don't need a recommendation from anybody else. This process is about us agreeing that you're right for that role. This is a process of introduction from you personally. And this will be the first experience that the host organization has of you personally, so make it count. What happens next is that we will often invite you to meet the host organization. Every charity is different, so this process is as uniform as it can be for a mass process, but there is an element of this that is different. So the vast majority of the charities we've worked for years and years, and if they do want to meet you, it's often because they just want a sense of organizational fit. So they just want to know that the person that they've got is going to fit in with their team. On a personal level, that you're going to get on with your manager, that it's a nice fit. So for many people, this meeting is really informal. For others, it can feel a little bit more formal, particularly for newer charities, particularly for smaller charities that are investing. Remember, each charity is investing £5,000 in you towards our leadership development delivery, and of course paying the salary plus on costs. And particularly for smaller charities, it can prove a larger risk. So they want to feel reassured. So for others, it might feel closer to an interview than sometimes we would like it. Every organization has been told that you've been through an interview, and they are not to give you any kind of competency-based assessment or formal interview process. However, that doesn't mean turn up in shorts and trainers like you've already been given the role. I'll talk you through that in a minute, Nicole. So what we would ask you to do when you meet the host organization, basically all CharityWorks partners know you've undertaken a robust recruitment and selection process that has assessed your competency. The host organization may want to meet you to get a sense of things we just can't assess through a mass process, so fit for values or any role specifics. Treat any meeting as the first opportunity to impress upon a potential host employer your interest and capability to fulfill the role. These meetings are never set up in the same style as an interview. That is where they're meeting you because they are meeting other candidates. They will meet you and you alone for the role. That's our recommendation. If that was ever to be different, and occasionally this happens to people on the wait list where actually an organization might have come to us and they've got a role, but it's open market and they want to consider one of our waitlist candidates alongside, we would tell you in advance. Every other client, everyone who's set up on the program is set up to look at you individually as the only person that they're looking at for the role. So these are confirmatory meetings. These are for them to look at you and to confirm their decision. If you give them any reason why they shouldn't and they doubt the match, they are entitled to come back to us and tell us that we don't think it's a right fit. If they do that, we will escalate your placement match such that we immediately would get in touch with you with a telephone conversation, talk you through what had happened, talk you through the feedback we've received, and talk you through what we want to do next. So it's rare for a candidate to be rejected unless either we have completely got the fit wrong. So if we have in any way not clocked that a candidate was a massive introvert and we've put them into a massive extrovert style role, that occasionally could lead to problems. And also occasionally a candidate has went in there with an attitude or approach as if they'd been offered the job anyway, and actually they were or they went in there knowing that they also had 3 or 4 other graduate program applications that they were going through and CharityWorks wasn't top of the tree. So that's typically when those things don't work. It's very rare for an organization to come back and to reject based on a meeting, very rare indeed. If that does happen to you, we would be looking to match you again. Unless a client had flagged with us that you turned up and were abusive or something, then we might flag your status in the process. But genuinely, we would look to match you again. It's incredibly rare though, guys. I mean, it's like 1 in 100. Like, it really doesn't happen all that often. But it's important it won't happen at all if we get the match right and you guys turn up with an approach and attitude to that as a first opportunity to meet an employer. So hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better. We always ask before you do it, read over the role description. I'm ready to be enthusiastic about the role, and if you're not, maybe we ought to be questioning the match. Be able to relate your experiences and skill set to what they're going to be asked of you. Learn as much as you can about them. Check out their website, check out their annual report. Just be ready to make them feel, yeah, CharityWorks have got this right, and I can't wait to start working with you. Yes, it can be a Skype exchange. You don't always have to travel. If it's a relocation, So if you don't say, if you live in Sheffield and you said you want to or are open to living in London, we match you to a perfect role in London and you want to relocate. Organisations are incredibly considerate about that. If they want to see you face to face, they will often offer to pay for travel to get you down. If they're okay about it, they may in many circumstances Skype you or talk to you over the phone. And yeah, hopefully that's helpful to know. How soon after placement match is this statement due? I covered that one, didn't I? Sorry, Rachel. Once you've done that, it's up to the employer to make a decision. The vast majority of decisions are acceptance, in which case you will then receive your formal offer of employment from your host organisation. Once they send you a formal offer of employment, a letter stating, even if they PDF it over email, that they would like to employ you, so a statement of intent, but more importantly, a statement that has your contract, your employment contract, that's the stage at which you've been made a job offer, and we would then recommend that you hand in your notice period where you are. And please do not hand in your notice period when you've been made a placement match. Please wait until you get offered the role formally by the host employer. It's very, very important. Then we will onboard you to the program. We will send you the placement, the program handbook, which will contain all your dates for the learning sessions and what's going to be covered. Talk about your mentor. We'll bring you eventually into a process of mentor matching, where you'll get to have a bit of a say over the kind of person you want to be mentoring you across the year. You'll agree a start date with your host organisation that's mutually convenient for you both. Ideally, it would be in September. Last year, we had people starting from the end of July into August, quite a few in September, a fair few in October, a handful in November, and unusually for the program, we actually had a couple start in January, but that was mainly because they were waiting on the wait list. Some roles came through, it worked for them. They had part-time work until Christmas, and the aim is for us to get as many talented people into the sector as possible. And if we can hold the door open for as long as we can, we will. Our preference for the program's sake and for your development's sake is to get that all done as soon as possible. Whenever you start in your role, it will be a 12-month contract from the day you start. The Charity Works program will always start late September, early October. The real meat of the program doesn't kick in until around about end of October, early November anyway. And there will be additional onboarding stroke induction processes to bring anybody who starts after September up to speed on the program. You do, Ellen, 12 months later. Does Charity Works assist with relocation? So Emily, not directly, not in the sense, so as a charity, we have quite limited resources anyway, so there is a bit of an issue around relocation resources. However, where we can be really flexible is around flexing some of our program deadlines to enable you to start when it's convenient for you to start. We also typically encourage Charity Works candidates that have been made a placement matching offer and are then looking to relocate to connect through our groups on Facebook to co-coordinate what that looks like. Many of our Charity Works graduates choose that they want to have shared accommodation together, for example, especially if they're moving to London. And we can help facilitate things like that should you need us to. We want you to be successful. We want you to feel really comfortable and happy. We'll do as much as we can within the means that we have to be able to do that. So there's a bit of a two-way agreement, I guess, between us through the placement matching process. So we are committed to communicating to you all throughout this process in a timely way. And I'm particularly concerned about those who get to mid to late August and still haven't received a placement offer and are still keen to be involved. I want to make sure that anybody going through this process feels informed, and we'll be sending updates every fortnight, general updates, and we will be holding ourselves to no more than 3 weeks of you having to wait before you've had something personal from us in terms of personal email or an agreement for a call. Our aim is, within that framework, is that if you get to 3 to 6 weeks in the process, so if you're in the process and you're approaching the September induction and still haven't been placement matched, I think I quite like to run another webinar and bring together everybody who's left in the process, or to arrange personalized one-to-ones and to start discussing how we can best tailor what's coming in terms of roles to placement matches come post-September. We'll respond to your questions in a timely manner, so the team will be taking on board those questions as they come in, and we very much encourage you to email those questions to info@charity-works.co.uk. If you email an individual member of the team, they may not get around to looking at it for a while. If it goes to that inbox, it'll be picked up within 24 hours and directed to the correct person. And we'll aim to get back in touch with you as soon as we can. Our aim of turnaround is usually about 48 hours. We also expect that we will be driven by matching your talent to the needs of the charity where we can create the most impact together. And that's you and us across Charity Works, which is really important. Equally, we have some expectations and responsibilities for you through this process as well. We expect you to respond to deadlines in a timely way and to be contactable throughout. So if your email address or phone number changes, please let us know. If you are going on holiday, you probably already booked holiday and have outlined it to us in the placement matching form. That's fine. If anything's changed or you're going away for any days, please let us know. Please try and remain contactable whilst you're away. You might not be able to sit and write a statement on a beach in Ibiza, but you might be able to tell us if you're interested in a role when you get back and when you can get a statement over to us. Leave a point of contact in the UK for you if you're not going to be contactable, whether it's your mum or dad, whether it's a relative or family member or a friend, somebody who can relay messages to you. Some things happen really quickly in Charity Works placement matching, especially if a role comes in, charity comes to us and says, we've got a role for Charity Works, we're already working with you to place 4 roles. Actually, there's suddenly a 5th because for whatever reason, somebody's moved on in role, but they need it turned around really quick. You might get a piece of comms from us, and we usually give about 48 hours for you to turn around a response to that comms. I appreciate that's not always feasible, but sometimes we do have to move on to other candidates if we can't get a response. We will try to be as flexible with that as we can, particularly if we know you're away. You will also accept any roles that meet some or all of your preferences. This is really important, and I'm going to talk to you about what happens if you decide that you don't want to proceed with a match, which you are perfectly entitled to do if you're not happy with the match that's been made. If you've given us your preferences and the role meets some, if not all of your preferences, whether that be location, role type, cause area, unless there is a really strong and legitimate reason why you think that role is not the right match for you and you can't see yourself taking it up, we highly encourage you to accept the match. Some things that happen year in, year out that make this process really difficult is people are holding out for specific organizations, or they want to call with us and they've been made a really, really fantastic match, and they call us and say, I really wanted a role at, I don't know, say we'll pick UNICEF as an example. Are they in the process yet? And I can be really honest and say, yes, we're expecting a role from UNICEF. It might come in the next couple of weeks. But the challenge is sometimes the role is not the role that you'd hoped it would be. For some people, that might not matter. But if UNICEF are looking for an HR graduate and they want somebody with some experience within that space, it's not going to sway our decision from matching you to the perfect marketing and comms role at another really great organization if we've matched you to it. If that's the kind of role that you're interested in, I must stress that the Charity Works graduate program is a 1-year placement. This is not about pigeonholing you in to what you're going to do for the rest of your career, but it's about kickstarting that career within the nonprofit sector. It's in our interest, yours and the host organizations, for you to be happy and enjoy your work, and we are very passionate about making that happen. But at the same time, please consider rules very carefully, even if it's something that you hadn't quite expected to come in. Please view any of the placements that we put forward within the context of the Charity Works program as a whole. Before I move on to broad questions, it's worth me picking up on some things that are waitlist specific. Yes, 48 hours for a response normally. Is it worth emailing to specify particular organizations that we'd like to be matched with? No, Sophie, it's not, because we will match based on the need rather than name dropping organizations. And the reason for that is, if you send me an email and tell me that you really want to work for a particular organization, I can guarantee that everyone else in the candidate pool will want to do the same thing. If you've written in the extra details on your placement matching form that there's a particular area that you're interested in, obviously we'll work hard to try to match to it. But we need you to have some flexibility. If you made an offer for a placement match on Friday, expected to have a written statement by Monday. Yes, Sophie, that's correct. If there's a really legitimate reason why you can't do that, we would at least expect an email telling us your response to the role on the Monday. And we could pick up the placement matching statement later. But yes, the idea is to get the placement matching statement round so that we can get your details to the client on the Tuesday of that week and get back in touch with you from there. In your email, you mentioned the possibility of employers asking for a DBS check. Usually when it's work with children and vulnerable young people, some organisations have a DBS policy across the board. If you're concerned about it, Constance, just send us an email and let us know, but it will depend on the specific organisation. Mira asks, I hear what you're saying and I'm flexible. However, as you only get a single match, it would be really good to know what your partners, etc., are, especially in the locations I've listed. It's a good challenge. The difficulty is, if we do that for 150 individuals, we'll end up having 150 phone conversations about which roles we've got available. And it just, the process becomes nigh on impossible. So if you've listed that you want to work in Birmingham and you want to know which organisations we're working with in the West Midlands, and I list 5 organisations to you, and you tell me, actually, I really want to work for that one. Firstly, we'd have to look to see whether you fit and match the role. But then we would then have to go to all the other placement matches within Birmingham and make sure that they were getting the right roles that they wanted to be matched to. Some part of this is about you putting some trust in us as well, guys, because we've done this for 11 years, and the vast majority of individuals are blown away by the placement experience that they have. Yes, Ellie, we can share with some written statements with you. They might not be contextualized to the role that you're looking at, but we can certainly share them. But it is a fair point, Amira. I do understand, especially if you've been location specific. All I would say is that if location is the thing that's causing us to find it difficult to match you to a role, we're likely to get in touch with you and have a call about your location preferences. So there are a handful of people in this process who only want to live and work in Scotland or Wales, and there are more limited numbers of placements in Scotland or Wales. Obviously, we will try our best to match those that have the most restricted availability in terms of location, but it depends on the role, depends on how closely matched you are to the role. If there are various start dates, when can we expect to be paid? Laura, it depends on the charity. Most organisations, well, all of them will salary pay you. Most organisations will operate a monthly salary where you will be paid on a given day of the month. Some organisations will pay you 2 weeks in advance. Some won't. So depends on the organisation. So if you start on the 1st of September and payday at that organisation is on the 24th of September, they may pay you on the 24th of September your accrued total to that date, or they may pay you your accrued total plus the 2 weeks in advance, which may work out as a full salary. So you'd expect to get your first payment normally with an organisation on the next intake of their pay cycle. Depends on when you've joined. If you join on the 1st and their pay cycle is for the 5th, they may have already processed the payroll for that intake. Yes, I can, Sam. What did I say about location? Tell me what you heard, and I'll try and fill in the rest. If there's a particular area we're interested in, we didn't specify in the survey, it would be helpful to let CharityWorks know in an email. You can send us details over in an email. I'm reluctant to encourage it because the issue is I accidentally encouraged it at the last webinar and 50 people attended and we got like 40 odd emails, and it was mainly just people telling us things on the placement survey that we kind of already knew. If it's a significant change, email it and we'll see what we can do. Hopefully that's kind of helpful, Sophie. Rachel, how would you get to see written examples? I might stick one up on the website, actually. Let's have a think about how I can do it, Rachel. I'm trying to think the best way. We might put a sample one out to everyone who gets a placement match, actually. Let me have a look at it because time is tight for the first batch of matches, which are happening on Friday. But honestly, it's a 1 and a bit page statement, which is I'm delighted to be matched to X. I think this would be a good fit for me because my skills align to this role, because I have demonstrated through my voluntary experience at X that I'm really good at Y, which is related to point Z in the role description. Do all organizations pay the same? They do indeed, Lucy. The salary is fixed as per what was advertised on the CharityWorks website. It's 21,300 in London and 18,300 outside of London. Other than London and the South, what are the main locations that you find placements in the UK? Tricky one, that, Lizzie, because actually all over the UK, but more concentrations in Bristol and the Southwest, Manchester and the Northwest, Birmingham and the Midlands. But then we have placements in Oxfordshire and a couple of placements in Scotland at the moment, with potentially more on the way. So it's quite broad and varied, actually. If location is your main preference, that's what I said, Sam, and now I can't remember what I said. If location is your main, if location is your main preference, then you've been quite restrictive over your location, like I only want to work in Scotland. We will have considered that when we're looking at the candidate pool. And if you've ranked really highly and you're the right fit for a role, it would be best for us to match you to a role where you can work. But if we're finding that we have 5 roles in Scotland and 6 individuals that can only work in Scotland, we may be in touch with a telephone call to let you know, just so that we're not dragging you out through the process. And you can make a decision as to whether or not, if we considered you for a role elsewhere, you would be open-minded to it. Hopefully that's kind of helpful. Is it possible to see our filled-in placement matching survey again? Technically, from a technical perspective, Henriette, it's actually not possible to do that. And the main reason is that the system doesn't allow us to take the placement data back and reissue it, annoyingly. But I'd be weary of doing it, I think, anyway, because there's a potential that everyone will come back and say, actually, I wouldn't mind working in London if it was for, and again, this is the reason we stress this as importantly as we could with regards to placements matching survey. What most people are fearful of, Henriette, is that they haven't filled it in a way that reflects how they feel. And actually, if most people saw their survey, they would probably feel it was a fair reflection. Most people just want to confirm what they've already written. Yeah, I totally agree, Amira. It's a really good point, and I understand. Everyone's anxious that they might miss out on something that they like better, but there is definitely an element of trust involved in that. It's the nature of it being a mass recruitment graduate program with multiple opportunities across multiple organisations. Is that we will do our best, but we will be meeting the needs of organisations first, and if that means that somebody else is better placed to go into a role that might have been your perfect opportunity. We don't want you to be in a role that you're not going to enjoy, but it's certainly possible that we might have matched in that way. I think a lot of people are worried that the best and most opportunities are in London. That's not true, genuinely not true. There are more opportunities. I'm going to be as transparent as you can with answers to these questions, by the way, so definitely get them in thick and fast. That's not true, actually. But what is true is that the most opportunities are in London. I'd say about 65% of the roles are in London. We've had some really amazing placements outside of London, but the issue with the London thing is actually, because that's where most of the central main offices of major non-profit organisations are based, actually, and we can only work with the geographic distribution of placements and as they are. However, particularly for some of our smaller charity partners, there are a lot of fantastic opportunities based outside of London. And some of our charities with regional bases as well. And we've already matched, just today actually, I've matched up 5 roles in Bristol. We've matched to 1 in Oxfordshire and a couple in Huddersfield. So there are definitely good placements across the UK. Will you find out where you're ranked? No, you won't find out where you've ranked, but what you will find out is what the average score was and where you scored in comparison. You're welcome to know. I hope that's helpful from Beth and whoever else is manning the text chat box. If you don't accept, we haven't talked about what happens if you don't accept. Sorry, guys, I'm so sorry, because Sophie's raised this as an excellent question. If you don't accept the match, in short, you will be returned to the status of placement matching that you were given when the process started. So if you were made a placement matching offer, we will return you to the process in the same state and the same rank as before. If you're on the wait list, we'll do the same. Think very carefully before rejecting a match, and make sure if you do it, that you do it on really, really solid grounds. Because I've had individuals last year reject matches that were matched to something else. And to be clear, if you reject a match, it will not prevent us matching you to something else. We will consider you in the same candidate pool. I think if we start getting to 2 or 3 rejections, we might have to have a conversation with you about expectations. But if you reject a match, we have had people that have rejected a match for very legitimate reasons. We've matched them again, taken on board the feedback, and things have been successful. We've also had people that have rejected matches because that wasn't quite what they were hoping for, and then when we've matched them to something again, they've called me and said, "Can I have my original match back?" And the minute you let it go, we have to reallocate it, because there are other people obviously waiting in the process to be matched. So yes, we would match you again, but just be really careful that if you reject a match, you do it on the right grounds. Is it possible to know how many people are on the wait list? Yes, there are 150 people on the wait list. Again, last year, by the time we got to November last year, everybody in the placement matching preferences who wanted to take up a role on CharityWorks, everyone who was made a placement matching offer who wanted to take a role on CharityWorks, took up a role, unless they had an issue around their location restriction, which made it impossible for us to match them because we didn't have available roles, or they withdrew. But everybody who wanted one got a role. On the wait list, I'd say on our wait list, probably about a third, if not somewhere to a half of those that were left at the end of the process, and a number of people had withdrawn because they'd taken up other roles. On the wait list, people were in a position where, well, actually, in all transparency, last year, we were at dangerous risk in November of running out of candidates for roles. So you should feel pretty good about that, actually, if you're on the wait list. And the reason was some people on the wait list had quite stringent location restrictions, which meant that we couldn't placement match, or people on the wait list were in a position where they were holding out for their dream role, but we had to be frank and be honest that due to their performance through the process, there were always going to be 5 or 6 people ahead of them for that kind of role if it came in. And so they didn't want anything but that. Those that were really open-minded on the wait list got access to roles last year. So if we're going to offer you a role and you're on the wait list, it's going to happen in a number of ways. One, it's going to happen if, firstly, we can't find somebody with that skill set match within those that were made a placement matching offer. And if you were made an offer to join our placement matching process and a client is looking for a particular, I was about to say particular set of skills, but of course you can no longer say that thanks to Liam Neeson without sounding like an idiot. So if they're looking for a particular skill set, and it's not to be found, so I don't know, they might want somebody with an IT qualification, or they might want somebody who has very particular experience working for a very specific type of organization, and somebody on the placement matching list doesn't have it, then we'll be looking at the wait list for candidates. Let me pick that up in a second, Elizabeth. Let me make it clear about references. So what was I saying? Wait list. So you could be made an offer that way. The other way you could be made an offer is roles coming in later in the process as we start to max out those that have been made a placement matching offer versus those that are withdrawn. So as time goes on, we're opening up more and more roles to the wait list. You might live in a really unusual location where we have a role, and actually there's only a handful of people that would locate there, and you're on the wait list, in which case we'll be considering you for the role as well. The other way that we would consider you for a role, if you were on the wait list, is if the role had, for whatever reason, been rejected by those on the placement matching list. And sometimes, and I've seen this happen, this has happened to some really amazing roles, because we've had some candidates in the placement matching offer pool that have been very stringent about the type of organisation that they want to work in. So some candidates in the pool will be on the Charity Works programme because they really know they want to kickstart their career in X part of the charity sector, and they're also applying for jobs in that part of the charity sector, and they've also applied for other schemes, and they'll only take up a placement on Charity Works if it meets that criteria. That can sometimes work for them, and sometimes it cannot. And as a result, what we found sometimes is that roles in other organisations, other social causes, have been rejected by candidates that would have been a good match for them but didn't want to take them, in which case we'll release them to the wait list. So hopefully that's a bit of it. So that's at least 3 ways, if you're on the wait list, that you could get a role. If you want to come off the wait list, if you've decided that you have picked up a role elsewhere, just email us and let us know. But I would implore you, for as long as you can, to stick with the process, because every year we have some amazing roles come in last minute. Everyone else is matched, and we look to the wait list. And particularly last year, we had this problem where even on the wait list, I was struggling to match into roles where, you know, one of the roles is that, I think one of the roles last year that we ended up not being able to match to was at Rethink Mental Illness, which is an amazing charity, and went out to the wait list. And just by that time, people were no longer as engaged. It was getting close to Christmas. So that's how that happens in reality. Being on the wait list and being completely flexible, is it more likely than not you will get a role? Depends where you're ranked on the wait list a bit, Lucy, but if you're flexible, if you were completely flexible, I think there is a strong likelihood we could find a match for you on the wait list, because there will inevitably be roles that come in that for one of those 3 reasons get offered up to the wait list. I guarantee it, and I guarantee it'll start happening from September. It happens every year. Yes, that's right, Elizabeth, that response is right. You'll be updated every 2 weeks, Saffron, same as everybody else. What we meant to do between now and December if we're just waiting? Well, you could be made an offer anytime from tomorrow, because I've actually already placement matched 1 role to somebody on the wait list this week. So I think that those on the wait list are often in a position where they're considering other opportunities whilst they're waiting to hear from Charity Works, and I totally expect that to happen. I can't force you to wait around for a role on the Charity Works programme on the wait list, but we will be working hard to do the best we can for those who are on our wait list. Just keep us up to date. I'm totally realistic that you're looking for roles in the non-profit sector, and if you haven't performed quite as well as you'd want to, then being on the wait list can be frustrating. But we are going to be as transparent as we can with you on the wait list. You will also have the opportunity to speak to us through the process, and we can start to give indication as roles come in terms of the likelihood of matches. At the minute, it's kind of an unknown because each year is slightly different. I hope that's okay. No, everyone should get an update tomorrow, Jess. We'll email everybody. I don't want to talk too much about the induction, Constance, in September, because there'll be a whole other session of comms that goes out before that, and I know we're a bit short on time and people have got a lot of kind of anxious questions that I want to get through. Also, why can't we see where we are on the wait list so we can make an informed decision? It's a fair challenge, Nicole, but it doesn't really give you the opportunity to make too much of an informed decision, because I matched last year right to the bottom of the wait list. So even those people that were ranked, right towards the bottom still had role offers and actually performed really well. If you're on the wait list, irrespective of where you've been ranked, it just means that it's been a really competitive process and people have ranked more highly than you. It doesn't necessarily mean you're still above the threshold that we consider to be talented to take part in the program. But I do appreciate what you're saying around that, Lucy. what would you advise us in terms of applying to other jobs? Because we don't want to risk getting to November and having no job. I would recommend that if you're on the wait list, that you are always considering all of your options. I had a couple of people on the wait list last year who were made an offer in November and decided that they would take the offer to be on the graduate program. They'd already started in a job and then they moved back over to Charity Works. It's not ideal. And listen, guys, I'm gonna level with you that being on the wait list is a challenge when it gets into the later stages because there's a lot of uncertainty. But the option is we close the wait list and we only placement match people made a placement matching offer in September, and we have fewer placements on the program, or we try our best to make as many opportunities as possible for you, those of you that have made the wait list. And my preference is to do the latter because I want to see as many of you get into the sector as possible. And you will get feedback on your application probably by end of August, September time. I might have missed it, but did you give a date for when the other side to this program starts? It starts in September, end of September. And we don't have the definitive days, Laura, mapped out yet, but we'll be able to give you a bit of a sense. It's about 1 day a month out of the office. Denai, that's a really smart choice to be applying for temp jobs in the meantime. If there's anything in your placement matching preferences that we clock as we placement match as a team that I think will in any way put you at risk of not getting a match, we will be in touch and we will be picking up phone calls with you as we go. Looking forward to chatting to the team regarding preferences. Welcome, Amira. So there are 7 national conferences, including induction, and 6 learning sessions. That's based on the structure of the program for 2018, but we're currently reviewing the structure based on feedback. We iterate it every year based on people that participate. If you're not based in London, you will only attend the conferences in London and their day conferences. Your learning sessions could be based in one of our other hubs. Please, could I see my placement matching survey just to jog what I put? We can't actually pull them out, Lucy, and resend them. If I flag your survey and see if there are any issues, I can definitely raise it with you. Charity Works be interested in knowing our degree results. It won't have an impact on our matching, I don't think. I've never, ever asked the team to take into account the result of a degree yet, but you're welcome to share it in case you would like to, in case it does. No worries, you're welcome, Rachel. Can I just get a sense of how everybody's feeling in the room? Because I'm conscious that we've run this as a waitlist stroke placement matching preference webinar. And the reason I didn't want to do that is because I didn't want to mix waitlist anxiety and reassurance alongside people who've been placement matched and lots of different questions that are relevant to some and not to others. I want to give you a sense of how placement matching works. And I also just want you to feel encouraged in the process. And that you've made it this far for a reason and we're working really hard. And I'd rather be super transparent with you and help you to make good choices. Each one of you, everyone who's here in this text chat box right now talking to me, you're all in a pool being considered for placements. You're just all at different ranks and levels and there's lots of different things going on. That will change. Yeah, I'll be sending, Denai, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, Denai, I've said it many times, I hope I'm not getting it wrong. I'll be sharing the slides and the recording with all of you as a follow-up. That's good, Lucy. And genuinely, if you're on the wait list, if anyone's on the wait list and really concerned, like you're struggling to sleep concerned, and you want to have a conversation with us, please get in touch. This is about making you feel as comfortable as possible. The waitlist exists as a means to get as many of you as possible into roles because we think you are capable and talented enough to be in there. Is anybody here not on the waitlist? Can I just check, because I know that's what it's been only for. You're welcome, Kurt. You're welcome. And not to make anyone feel too much more on edge, but I've seen some names in here that I'm expecting to match from tomorrow. Probably shouldn't say that because I don't want to get everybody's hopes up, but at the same time, just to let you know, it's happening. Great. Yes, that's right. Ooh, lots of things coming through. I think most of them are just yes. And I'm not. I'm not, as in I'm not on the wait list. I take it that's good. I'm pleased to hear it. I just want to make sure that this is also helpful for those who aren't on the wait list, because it's taken a bit of a wait list skewer. Feeling better now? Yes, that's good. Webinar's else been informative? You're welcome. That's great. And actually, to be honest with you, I'm already recognizing names that I've been looking at today who aren't on the wait list. Placement matching offer, yes, good, excellent. And how are people feeling who have a placement matching offer after that webinar? Hopefully good. Yeah, so tomorrow is the next bit of content. So by the end of the day tomorrow, some matches will be made, some will get an update. We'll probably update you on how many matches we've made so far and where we're at. Okay, great. That's really good, Aaron. I'm pleased to hear it. I know, Amira, honestly, there's a lot of information. Yeah, so if you have any specific issues around your location, get in touch with us, Sam. Just shoot us over an email and tell us what you're concerned about specifically. I don't want to discuss anything in an open forum if it's quite personal to you. Okay, try not to be too stressed, guys. We'll work really hard. I'm going to put the faces of the team back up just so that you know that we are human beings too, to make you feel a little bit more assured. That's great. Excellent. Yeah, Elizabeth, you can. Jess has sent hers, which is great. We've got your predictions where you've given us predictions. We don't take a massive amount of an account into degree results because it doesn't often tell us, unless it's really aligned to the role that you're doing, then it can be more important. And if we wanted to know, we would just email you and ask. And can I just say a massive congratulations if you've just gotten your degree result? My guess is that if you want to send it to us, it's probably a good result. So well done. I know how hard that period of time was. Finishing dissertations and things. So well done, guys. And we'll work as hard as we can together. Okay, I'm going to bring this to a close because I've actually got some placement matching to do. So I'm going to bring it to a close. And we're going to send over a copy of the slides from the webinar. Yes, Michael. That can happen. Yes, we can do meetings over Skype. Depends on the organization. Occasionally we get an organization that's a little bit fiddly about the meetings. If you're in Beijing for 2 months, I can't see a reason why they wouldn't do that. We had a lot of that last year, actually, people working abroad or traveling abroad and Skyping in. So it definitely can be done. Such is the way of the world. I would definitely not want you to be sitting at home tethered to your computer if you could be in Beijing. You're more than welcome, Sam. Yes, good luck, everyone. We really look forward to being in touch with you with an update tomorrow. Yes, it is. The Centre for Life is amazing. It's beautiful. Well, I live up here, so frequent place for me to visit. You're more than welcome. Thanks, Eloise and Saffron. You're welcome, Samaya. You're more than welcome, Ellie. You're more than welcome. Thank you so much, guys. All the best with the process. We look forward to being in touch with you. Let's create some social change together. That's what I'm excited about. Okay, I'm going to close this down. You're more than welcome. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Look forward to being in touch with you. Just give you a bit of broader information to share the slides tomorrow. Thank you very much, guys.